Hello viewers, thank you for joining me once again. You may remember about a month ago I had a guest named Richard Rawlins, whose main job was, well, he's retired now, but he was an orthopedic surgeon. He's a member of the British Medical Association, but he moonlights as a conjurer, and he's also a member of the Magic Circle. I keep meeting conjurers. Also about a month ago, I staged a show, a variety show for Atheist Alliance International as a fundraiser. And I had a conjurer on that too. We had Cosmo the Magician, who's based in New York State. And I think it's appropriate for skeptics to tap into these people who are professional deceivers. How are we going to know whether to be skeptic or not unless we have their sort of mindset? So tonight, I'm very pleased that we have with us the up-and-coming magician from Britain's Got Talent, all the way up in Edinburgh, Kevin Quantum.
Hi everyone, how's it going? Thanks for having me on the show. But I think there's been some kind of mistake. I actually do real magic. I thought this was what I do is, yeah, you didn't know that.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's not deception or trickery. No, it's actual magic.
Oh.
Capital M.
I'm sorry if I've given something away.
Oh no, it's all right. I'm sure we can forget that. Yes, like the rest of them.
And Santa Claus is not real either.
Well, I think my daughter's asleep, so we can probably say that, yes, without worrying too much about it.
So Kevin, you're on Britain's Got Talent at the moment, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yeah, Britain's Got Talent, which is, if you're not familiar with it, it's a really large televised competition variety show, essentially, with mainly UK-based acts, but also some overseas acts, all fighting to be the most talented person in the UK, I guess is the title.
Yeah. Well, I must admit that I don't actually watch it much myself, but I'm a bit of a geek. I'd probably be watching a documentary or something at the time that it goes out. But wasn't it the show that was won by a dog a couple of years ago?
Oh, more than likely, yeah. When I looked at past winners, I was obviously trying to give myself the best chance of success. I realised that to win Britain's Got Talent, I had to be an opera singing, former military, acrobatic, juggling dog. Yes, to give myself any chance. Yeah. So sadly, I wasn't able to fit all of those criteria in. In fact, I did something a bit different. I tried to put a wee bit of science into my performances online, which was a wee bit different for what they're used to on a Saturday night on ITV, but seemed to go down quite well. Well.
Absolutely. Well, you're a sort of a lapsed academic, aren't you? Because you were doing a PhD at Edinburgh, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was doing my undergrad was at Edinburgh. My PhD was at Heriot Watt, which is the best way to describe it is a slightly more maybe more engineering type university in Edinburgh. And so I was there, and then that was sandwiched a year in Dundee where I did my master's.
Yeah. So you could be sort of following in the footsteps of Brian May, you know, the Queen guitarist. He was doing a PhD in cosmology, I think it was, and then he gave it up to become Queen's guitarist. But after Freddie Mercury died, and they had a sort of a break, he went back and completed it. So he's now Dr. Brian May.
Yeah, well, yes, to have had the success of Queen in my little career would have been nice. But yeah, maybe. I mean, the more I do, the more I'm leaning back into science again. Today was pretty much on the phone with different organizations, some in the financial services, some in technology, trying to put together a creative team to deliver a project for a few years down the line. And that's all. There's very little magic involved right now. You know, I mean, I'll bring the magic to it later, but it's all about just trying to do a collaborative project with some high spec.
Yeah. Well, I'm all in favour of the bridging together entertainment and education. Because when I was a very young man, I was into magic too, and I've still got a book. Look at
Oh,
that.
wow.
That's a
Fantastic.
historic. That is a historic book from my childhood with yellowed pages, and it's dated the Teach Yourself Magic. When was it published? It doesn't say when it was published. Wait a
Who's
minute.
the author?
1954. That's a giveaway, isn't it, eh? You didn't think I was that old. At least I hope you didn't.
I'm just assuming you maybe found it 20 or
You're so kind. So I've spent most of my life as a science teacher. And of course, I tried to make that as entertaining as possible. I would do things that you can't do today because of health and safety. But I used to set fire to bubbles of hydrogen that were floating up through the laboratory, and eventually burnt a ring in the ceiling of the room, and that was sort of magic allied with science. So I'm very much in the favor of this union between the two things. Now, are you a magician, a conjurer, an illusionist? What are you?
I would say magician. Yeah, I'd call myself a magician. I think that's the best way to put it. I mean, when I do performances, a big part of what I do is I'm completely upfront about being a magician, and they say that being a magician is the most honest job you can have, because you're upfront about your deception. You know, it's built into the definition of what you do. So whenever I perform, I try and keep the wonder going as much as possible. You know, I don't hide the fact I'm a magician. The magic's inspired by science, or the science is inspired by magic. There's a spectrum that I use between magic and science when I make acts. But I really love the feeling of wonder, and I think wonder's been present throughout scientific discoveries. I mean, Einstein talks a lot about wonder, but if you go back even to the Greek philosophers, that wonder is a big, massive part of making those next leaps. You know, that inquisitiveness, that sense of being small in a big world. You know, I think that's a really good feeling to have, and I don't like to take that away from people.
It's what's driven human invention, human discovery, the wonder of, and the curiosity and wishing to find out. Absolutely. So if you were in France, of course, you might be called a prestidigitateur.
Yes, I love that word.
Man. Yes.
I do. I like that. I mean, I like sleight of hand magic, and I also did a course on pickpocketing. So that kind of stuff is quite fun. I do enjoy it.
So who's been your major influence?
Penn and Teller. Yeah, I mean, they're been massive because I met them early in my career as a magician when I started, which I started quite late. But apart from Penn and Teller, Paul Daniels, huge fan of Paul Daniels. I think in recent years, I would say he's maybe not been as popular as he was when he was back in his prime in the 80s, but prolific magician. There's another chap called David Burglass who's a wonderful magician as well, based down in London. He was quite fantastic. And then, I guess those, certainly Penn and Teller and Paul Daniels, I really love what they do. Yeah, I'm always attracted to that style of magic.
So do you work with your version of Debbie McGee?
No, I don't know. That kind of thing is kind of frowned upon these days. Whenever whenever you use an assistant these days, it doesn't really matter if it's a male or a female one, but more often than not, for me, they're just dressed as a stagehand. So if you watch Britain's Got Talent, the most recent one, I had 2 assistants helping me, and they weren't both dancers, but I requested that they were wearing black costumes, very nondescript costumes.
Brown overalls.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it is a shame, because I know a lot of girls out there who are who used to be assistants, who really enjoyed being assistants, but now don't have that opportunity.
Yes. You're too young, of course, to remember the famous Debbie McGee and Mrs. Merton interview.
Oh, I remember it. I'm old enough to.
You
to
do?
remember.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That was a classic, wasn't it? Let's just remind our audience. Mrs. Merton asked Debbie McGee, and what was it that attracted you to the millionaire Paul Daniels?
Yeah. Oh, it's hilarious. What first attracted you to multimillionaire Paul Daniels?
It was such a good line.
Yeah, her other famous one was with David Beckham's wife, Posh Spice, Victoria
Yeah.
Beckham. And the question that she asked her was, so you've got a child now, and I think, what was it? Was it Brooklyn? I can't remember the name of the child. Was it Brooklyn? So when Brooklyn grows up, do you want her to be a footballer like her daddy, or a singer like Mariah Carey? Which I thought was hilarious as well.
Yeah, you can pack so much comment into a question.
Yeah. She was great at that, or he was great at that. I'm not too sure now.
So, why is it that your field, magician, conjurer, whatever, illusionist, whatever, why is it such a male preserve? Have we ever had any female magicians of note?
Yes, we have.
Have we?
Yeah, of course, there have been. Yeah, especially in the what we call the golden age of magic, that late 1800s, early 1900s, that era of romantic music, romantic orchestral music. The Lala Sabini was one that springs to mind. There were more, but they evade me at the moment. In recent times, Mandy Moodin I've worked with, Faye Presto. There's there's Laura London. These are UK-based ones. There was a mixture of girls who used to do close-up magic that were called Chicks and Tricks. And
I think yes, but what you really is displayed my ignorance. This is you mentioned Las Vegas. This is our previous guest on the show, Richard Rawlins, at Las Vegas.
Oh, lovely.
So you performed there. Where did you? Which hotel did you perform in?
In Vegas, well, I was only there for training purposes. I wasn't there to perform, sadly. It is a bit of a dream of mine to perform there. So I was there at the Rio learning from Penn and Teller, who were two of my first teachers. I was thinking about having a show there. My wife and my daughter and I visited Vegas. But sadly, the day that we left, they had that horrific mass shooting, which really put my wife off making a move there for any significant amount of time. So yeah, it was sad days. But yeah, the Rio, yeah, I know, really bad. I mean, just what happens in people's minds. But the Rio was the hotel where Penn and Teller were. Big fan of the theatre that Penn and Teller had. And I went to see David Copperfield's show whilst I was there as well. Big fan of Vegas. It's known in the magic industry as the Mecca of magic.
Imagine. I've got an anecdote about Las Vegas too, because one time when I was there, we arrived on the night of, what would it have been? September the 9th, 2001. No, September the 10th, 2001. And we flew in from Chicago, I think, and we were sort of time shifted a bit because of, the time zones and the flight and so on. So we got up unusually early and drove to the nearby mall, huge, enclosed shopping area. And it wasn't open when we got there. It was that early in the day, but we hung around in the car and then went in when it did open. And as soon as we were walking down the aisles in this mall, we passed some shops that were selling televisions, and they were tuned to the news. And we saw the Twin Towers.
Wow.
Being hit by aircraft. And we thought, is that a movie? Because you couldn't tell it. It didn't look real at that time.
Yeah.
But of course, that meant that all of the flights were shut down. Everybody who needed to travel rushed to the car hire firms. And we wanted to go to California. We wanted to drive along the road through the Sierra Nevada mountains. Lovely drive. But we couldn't get a car. We had to hang around. And in the end, they found us. They lent us one of their old bangers, a horrible old Chevy with 3 gears, and it couldn't cope with the Sierra Nevada mountains. It didn't know whether to be in top or second. So it kept going up and down the gears, trying to get over them. Anyway, that's enough about me. So can I play that clip of you when you were just starting out, I think, when you were beginners in your early days?
Yeah, play the clip, and then I'll explain it once you've played it.
Great. Okay, give me a minute.
Yeah, no worries at all. So this was recorded back in 2004, and if I get cut off, just play it, and I'll continue the story later. Back in 2004, it was recorded at Heriot-Watt University, and it was just before my life was about to change.
When you were still being a scientist?
Yes, when I was doing my research post at Heriot-Watt, yeah, when I was...
Yeah. Okay, here we go. I'll make it big.
Meet 24-year-old Kevin McMahon, a brainy physicist from Edinburgh.
I work closely in the computational technique of trying to extract three-dimensional objects from two-dimensional pictures.
Kevin's life is about to be transformed as he swaps facts and truth-searching for deception and illusion to become a magician. For the next month, he'll be living with the Magic Circle's hottest young star, Nigel Mead.
The one thing that's going to give the faker away is lack of confidence. We can sit and learn magic tricks, but to make them an entertaining magician is something else completely.
I feel under new people. I don't know what I should be saying or what I should be doing. I'm usually confident when I'm talking facts, things that people think, oh, really?
Okay, name any drink in the world. Okay, beer, what's this? To be a magician, you need to be fairly bold with a lot of things. You may be saying something where you're blatantly lying. You're deceiving people.
It's against my morals to lie, and there's never, well, I say never, there's not often a good end to a situation where you've lied in.
In just 4 weeks, Kevin will be performing on stage to a packed audience alongside 3 professional magicians. A panel of experienced judges, including the legendary Paul Daniels, will be invited to spot the fake. Can Kevin trick them, or will his dreams go up in a puff of smoke?
It's going to be brilliant, but it's going to be terrifying at the same time.
I love that.
Thank you. I'm not sure if the viewers actually saw the video there. Maybe you'll get some feedback in the chat. We certainly heard it, but I don't think the video feed made it to the screen. But in essence, yeah.
They're telling us now they only heard the sound. What a shame. I wonder why that is. Maybe I could save it. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll save it and post it in the comments under this when it becomes a podcast. How about that?
Sounds good. You could probably pop it in the comments now for anyone listening live so they can copy and paste for later. But yeah, in essence, it was the opening scene from a reality television program, British one. It was on Channel 4 about 15 years ago. It was called Faking It. And it was very much a transformative reality show. It was the idea was to take someone in one job and then train them for 4 weeks to do a job that was the opposite. So sheep shearer became a hairdresser, cellist became a DJ, a minister became a second-hand car salesman, and a scientist, physicist became a magician. And that's my backstory. That's how I got into magic.
Yeah, I've put the clip into the chat now so that they will be able to click on it whenever they want. That might mean that the other clip that I've got to show, where you are in the semi-final of BGT, I might need to put that in. Why is this not?
I think when you played it, it was okay to play it, but when you maximize the screen, then we couldn't see it. So if you just leave it minimized, then we'll get a slightly smaller version of it, but we'll definitely be able to get it. Anyway,
that's what I'll do then. Let me just stop it from playing now.
Always loved
because I've opened it by mistake.
Yeah, so you can get it lined up for later.
I will. Yeah, I'm lining it up now. I'll also put the link into the private chat so people can watch it at their leisure. Excellent.
Yeah, that'd be good so they can enjoy it back. But yeah, faking it was very much it was one of those reality shows that was very positive in outlook. So often the reality Big Brother, which was for me, it was a social experiment. It was almost public humiliation for a few £100. It didn't really.
You didn't have to eat any witchetty grubs, I hope. Oh, that's not Big Brother, is it? That's what's it called? Love Island or something. You can see I'm not a fan of these programs.
That's it. I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Is that right?
That's the one. Yes, that's the one.
It's another sort of old kind of story, but someone taken out of their normal habitat, put somewhere new.
Yeah.
And how do they get on? It's a nice story. I quite like that fundamentally. But for me, the transformative element of faking it, the idea that you are given world-class training for 4 weeks, and then you're tasked with displaying this new thing that you've learned. It's just it's quite a phenomenal idea. You know, I really loved it, and I knew that whatever I do, I would enjoy it. And to be a magician, well, I didn't get to choose that. That was given to me. That was a real surprise, a very pleasant surprise.
But it was an opportunity, wasn't it? I mean, world-class expert training.
Yeah, massive opportunity.
Not to be turned down.
I was going to say, if you're going to do this privately without the carrot of a television show, then really you just spent millions pulling all of this together. You know, it's that kind of sort of budget. So to get this whole thing, this whole machine centered on me, the taking me out of my lifestyle, expert training, putting me in an environment with professionals. It's a sort of, there's a lot of people out there that pay hundreds of pounds, thousands of pounds for courses that they want to transform their lives. And for me, it's very much the biggest factor of any transformation is probably your environment, because I was just put into a completely different environment with experts on hand, and it changed me very quickly.
Are we ready for your more recent video, your BGT one?
Yeah, of course, bring it on. Yeah, so I guess maybe I'll just put that in context as well, just a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we spoke briefly about it at the start of this big talent show, Britain's Got Talent. This if it's a clip I think you're going to play, it's the one that went out probably about 3 days ago now, on Saturday night, 4 days ago. And it was the middle stage, the semi-final stage of Britain's Got Talent.
And we're not allowed to know whether you got through or not, of course, are we? You've signed a contract to keep that secret until it's revealed on TV.
I know that. Yes, mum is the word. Yeah, so I can't reveal that, sadly. But I was just saying it's about 6 minutes long. I don't know if you want to play the whole thing or maybe just the first minute or so, and then again you can leave the link.
I've looked at it and I think it's worth the whole view. Are we ready?
In that case, bring it on.
It's Kevin Quantum, and I am a scientist. Ever since I was at school, I've always loved engineering. I love science. I even remember as a kid taking apart my mum and dad's TV. Sadly, I wasn't smart enough to put it back together again. Scientists call them experiments for a reason, because they go wrong. Is that right?
Is that right?
Is he gonna run?
Congrats and respect for what you just did. Well done. This is such a fantastic act. The mix of magic, physics, and sort of dare and do. You're kind of like a sexy Doctor Who.
Or yeses?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Scooting
John,
Palace.
you can cut it there if you want.
Yeah.
Iris,
Okay.
and before
Yeah.
we start,
Okay.
That clip's a different clip. That's another one from your playlist might have went on to a different clip, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That gives you a good idea of. So that particular video was from the first round of Britain's Got Talent, which I did back in March. But I think I like that one better more than the Tesla inspired one. That was one. I built this device based on an invention by Ernst Mach, famous for Mach speed, I guess, in most popular terms. But he had this thing, which I think more commonly now these days is known as a harmonic pendulum, and there was a desk-sized version that I had, very much like the Newton's cradle, but the balls travel kind of a slightly different way. And I had one of these, and I was looking for a finale for my Edinburgh Fringe Festival show, maybe about 3 years ago. And I had this toy, and then it just struck me. I had this wonderful idea that because the patterns were always the same, that if I were able to upscale this, I could walk through without being hit by any of the pendula. And then over time, I've added fire and I've added weight and I've added sort of nice little electromagnets to control the actual deployment of them. So it's and then that all ended up as this wonderful act, which really caught the attention and the hearts and minds of the British public back in March.
Brilliant. I think I might be able to find the other link if I
of course, no worries.
If I go back a bit.
A lot of what I do, there is a strong science element to it, and sometimes the magic that I create is inspired by that. And the next clip that we're looking for, my semi-final one, comes from more of I would say a science fiction adaptation. There was a movie probably about 15 years ago called The Prestige, which is about two battling magicians. And there's a wonderful scene where one of the magicians who's trying to get an upper hand employs Nikolai Tesla, who is played by David Bowie in this particular movie, to invent a magic trick for him. And he has this wonderful electrical device which makes an object vanish from one place and then rematerialize somewhere else. However, when it does vanish, it doesn't actually vanish. It just makes an exact replica, leaving you two, one original and one copy of the object, which is what caused the problems. So this act was inspired by Tesla. Maybe I'll just send you a link in the private chat, John. How does that sound?
Well, I've got it now, I think, Kevin.
Oh, you have?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Should we
try and start it, and if you see me signal, then I'll if it's not the right one, then I'll signal to you, and then we can find the other one. So this looks like the same one. I think this is the same clip from earlier.
Really?
These are...
It may well be I made a mistake and sent you the wrong link as well. So I'm happy to...
Do for me is remember.
I'm sure I've seen the Tesla one. Let me have another try. You tell us about your plans for the future.
Yeah, sure.
Because I love that description of you as a sexy Doctor Who. There's all sorts of potential there.
Thank you. I loved that as well. Believe me, that was something that really grabbed. I was really happy with. I've sent you just a link in the chat there, John, in the private chat. You'll be able to access it on the right-hand side of your screen to a YouTube video that, if you bring that up on your tab, you should be able to share. Yeah, the judges were very much taken by that audition. It was a completely new thing for them to see kind of actual science on stage in an entertainment show. That was the big thing, I guess. So to do that and to impress them with it, and it was just wonderful. You know, the judges are, but yeah, the judges were really taken by it. And Simon, in particular, had never seen the desk toy before by Ernst Mach, so he was quite impressed as well. And
yep, he went frozen for a bit. Don't worry.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know why we're suffering from tech problems tonight, aren't we, John? Sorry about that.
Yeah, unusual.
If the first round was inspired by Ernst Mach, then the next round was inspired by Nikola Tesla. And it's a fantasized electrical, electricity-inspired production.
That was the Van de Graaff generator, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's Van de Graaff generators. There's things that look like Tesla coils. there's a bunch of stuff that you can do with science, like you can light a phosphorescent tube, for instance, when you bring it close to a Van de Graaff generator. However, the moisture in the UK, the moisture in the air in Scotland is so much moisture in the air that static electricity doesn't generally exist for long. Oh, this looks promising.
Yep, this is the one. Here we go.
Oh, great. There we are.
Science from a young age. It's a discipline that many people consider at odds to magic. Yet, throughout history, some of our nation's greatest inventions have come about through magical moments. Penicillin, television, the steam engine, the stuff of science fiction has now become reality. Scientists have made huge sacrifices with the simple goal of making the planet a better place, risking their lives for the greater good of the people. Now, I take risks.
Go back, John.
Yeah,
and learn the lines between reality and imagination.
The full screen doesn't work, sadly.
It won't take full screen, I think.
I'm putting my life on the line to show you some of the magic behind the science. Because right now, the world needs a little more magic. At school, we all learned about static electricity, this invisible buildup of electrical energy that manifests as a spark when discharged. I'm sure we've all walked across a nylon carpet or been on an escalator only to have received a shock when our finger touched. Wow. Now, as a kid, I learned how to harness static electricity and then use it to perform a number of experiments that looked almost magical to my friends. I realized that a small amount of electrical charge could make certain objects behave in strange and unusual ways. Much greater voltages can, of course, be created with machinery. But the greater the voltage, the greater the power, and the greater the risk. This device creates and then delivers charges of up to 1.2 million volts onto anyone who touches it. Very much the same thing that happens in nature when massive invisible electrical discharges create lightning. And McPartlin, can I ask you to join me on stage, please? On my left is a light bulb. Grab that for me, please, if you don't mind. Hold your finger out, point it towards me, please. Join me up on the stage. I really enjoyed playing with static electricity, but the science inside me has wondered, could I harness that excess electrical energy and then use it maybe to bring something about? Lightning is invisible until it physically sparks. I wondered, can I reverse the process? and take a physical object and turn it back into invisible energy. There's a jug there. Just grab that for me with your left hand. If you don't mind. Your left hand. Lift it up. Make sure there's no water inside of it. Water products. We absolutely don't want that. And hold it just in the centre of the box for me, just about there. Judges, could you hold your fingers out like this for me, please, if you don't mind? Just like this. Ashley, if you could place your right hand on the arm for me. Ashley, David, can you touch fingers now, please? Amanda, you ready? Yeah. Here we go. Now, if my calculations are correct, thank you very much indeed. This happened in the lab too, and it got me thinking, not enough power. So that's why I invented this. If you'd like to follow me, please, judges, just over here, please. In a moment, I'm going to charge myself to a dangerously high level. Once charged, I'm going to cover myself with an anti-static blanket, which should contain the charge. I'm then going to try and complete this circuit. Charge up the 5 watts. Ready. Please stay on your mat. You should be safe there. Circuit in 3, 2, 1.
I thought I'd add my own little effect at the end there. So it's fabulously spectacular, isn't
My name's
it?
Kevin Quantum, and I am a scientist.
Oh, it's starting again.
Ever since I was
Stop
at
it.
school, I've always
I
loved
hate it when they're on
engineering, I love
a
science.
loop
I even
like
remember
that.
as a kid.
We don't want to keep hearing the thing, do we? So, yeah, I was saying, it's fabulously spectacular. I'm sure you've got a great career in front of you, and we'll be seeing you somewhere on our screens and in cities all over the world, hopefully. But you're right. Without the opportunity that you had back then when you were transplanted from one environment to another, you could face years of grinding effort in little restaurants, being the local conjurer, the close-up magician, and getting nowhere, because this is what the alternative might be like.
Yeah, and I don't think it's such a bad thing if I just say that if you want
Ooh, I think we've frozen again.
to spend your life doing close-up magic and not have to travel too much, and you idea. So I don't know what's going on. It's bizarre. I just think that to make a career as a magician and not have to travel as a close-up magician, and that's quite lucky to do. I have to do a lot of traveling.
Yeah, well, you can't travel at the moment anyway.
No, not at all. Although having said that, I was working in Italy a few months ago, and as part of another television program called Tu sei che vali, which is more or less Italy's Got Talent. Have you got value? Are you worth it? And that aired actually on Saturday night as well. So I was on television in the
Twice.
UK and in Italy simultaneously.
Wow.
It's
That
funny.
must be a record. Must be a record of some sort.
Well, I think probably I was maybe the most viewed magician in the world on Saturday night. I feel it. Maybe that's the peak of my career.
I don't think so. No, I think
I hope not.
you're likely to progress to greater things. So,
Thank you.
one thing I had a difficulty with was with my magician who appeared on the variety show that I was trying to live stream. Can you imagine that? Live streaming a show with performers. We had one in San Diego, one in San Francisco, one in New York State, one in where else was it? Washington? No, it wasn't Washington. It was somewhere else in the States. One in Texas and one in Humberside in this country. Had all those people coming together. I was trying to be the presenter and the producer at the same time, and it worked. And that's a wonder of modern science, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's when these things come together, it's almost miraculous in some ways.
Yeah. Yes. But the conjurer who took part in that was a restaurant conjurer. You know, he goes from table to table and does a little trick. And that's a very different lifestyle from the sort of illusionist field that you are sort of aiming towards using the Britain's Got Talent vehicle. Do you know, I think Scotland's being very disconnected today. I wonder why this is.
I have no idea. I'm sorry. You were asking me about touring, and I was just going to say that yeah, that was definitely the goal. Should Britain's Got had the theatres been open, I would have planned a tour afterwards. And I go back to. I'm thinking right now of going over to Russia for a few weeks, maybe a month, around December, January time, because the theatres are open there, and I could put on a show with minimal Russian and make it quite a visual show and make some money, because right now I just can't work here in the UK.
Yes, it's a terrible time for entertainment as a whole, isn't it? Which is a shame, because we kick ass in the field of entertainment. I mean, our output sells all over the world, all over the English-speaking world, and in other countries where it's dubbed. And we're right up there with the Americans and with Bollywood and Nollywood in Nigeria. We are competitive with the world entertainment market. Business.
Yeah, absolutely. The UK's pretty punches above its weight, definitely, and that has done for years as well. You know, even back in the 60s with the Beatles, exporting our culture around the world. It's been very well received. Oh, sorry there, I didn't realise you were on the drinks. And I got myself a whiskey. Had I known it was that kind of podcast.
This is, it's a green bottle, so it doesn't appear on my... It obviously reaches the parts that other beers don't reach. But this is actually an alcohol-free one.
Ah, right.
They're thirst quenching, and you manage to keep a fairly clear head. Anyway, so you were in the process of telling us how, apart from the COVID disaster, and maybe I hope you get to achieve your ambition of going to Russia, getting around COVID that way. But apart from that, if I could give you a magic wand,
yes,
what would you wish for? Where would you want to see yourself in 5 or 10 years?
Where would I want to see myself? You know, I think if you'd asked me that a few years back, I'd have been quite comfortable in saying that I would like to have the kind of level of success that Derren Brown has enjoyed. You know, I'd like to be able to have that level of exposure to the public and also have that respect within the industry. I think that he's got both of those things.
Yeah. He is truly fantastic, isn't he?
My goal as a performer is to be seen by as many people as possible. So whenever I choose projects now, am I still there? Just hoping I am. Whenever I choose projects now, then I choose ones that are going to be delivered on a very large scale. So whether that's Britain's Got Talent or any domestic projects, arts projects.
I've got a working great signal my end. It must be your end, Kevin.
I really don't know. I've never had this problem before with podcasts at all. No, I had my one last night. It was fine. I really don't understand what's going on.
No, unfortunate, isn't it? But look, I've got what can you see there? I've got 68 down and 28 up. So
maybe I could try one thing. I'll change my camera and I'm going to move to a different.
Well, oh dear. This sometimes happens, not very often, fortunately. So while Kevin is trying to reconnect, assuming I'm still broadcasting, or live streaming, I should say, I will announce next week our guest will be Kat Arney of the BBC radio series of science presentations. And the week after that, we have a director of the government of South Africa, John Ostrowick, who is a very interesting, very academic fellow. And he's a philosopher by trade, but he started working in politics. And the following week, we have psychologist and founder of Recovering from Religion, Dr. Darrell Ray. So we've got a good program to look forward to. Kevin, are you back? Yes, you are. Hello.
I've opted to use my phone as a router, and in the hope that my home broadband is just playing up. So apologies to all the listeners. It's very unusual. I don't know what's happened. Maybe there's some atmospheric phenomenon above Edinburgh at the moment. I have no idea.
Well, I was wondering how you coped with the Scottish mist, the humidity, when you're doing all these static electricity things.
Oh, well, I have to use magic to achieve most of the effects. Like they're just you can't do them. You can't do them reliably in a theater. So I'll just use fine pieces of thread or mirrors and lighting. Just to achieve the same thing.
Don't give the game away.
Yeah, I know. I shouldn't really, should I?
Anyway, Kevin, I think that we've probably covered the ground. And unfortunately, it was not a lucky night, was it, with connectivity? You couldn't work your magic.
Yeah. That's a real shame. I'm sorry. It seems to have stabilized now, but back then, the point I was making. We were talking about where would you see me if it was the magic wand question? Where would I be if I could be in 5 years, 10 years time? Well, certainly. I think I would like to be a household name. I would like to establish myself in this science magic genre, which I feel like I'm developing right now. And I would have a range of magic sets with science that are inspired by science that are then on sale and on retail, and maybe I have a television show and then a touring show as well that backs that up. So it's not too different from the path that I'm on. I deliberately chose this path, and the only spanner in the works just now is the lack of congregating people. We're just not allowed to be in the same space together.
No legal gathering. That's the problem, isn't it? And it's the problem all through the entertainment industry. What a shame.
Yeah, real shame.
Well, I wish you the very best with it. I hope that I see you in all sorts of different venues in future. And as you say,
I hope so.
The magic, the box of tricks. Yes, because that used to be a regular sort of Christmas present, didn't it? But it seems to have dropped off the toy shelves at the moment.
Well, it still is. One of the things I did during lockdown was I made a series of 40 or 50 magic lessons that so it was lesson mainly for kids, but really anyone interested in magic. Put them on YouTube, called it Magic Lab. But at the same time, I tried to explain a fundamental principle of physics or science behind that magic trick, just to make it more interesting. So if we're using tension in an elastic band to remove an object invisibly, then I would talk about that. The two forces that are competing against each other that you then control. Or if I'm using gravity, if I'm using our familiarity with how an object falls and using that to fool the eye, then I would talk about gravity and how we instinctively know just through being humans and our lived experience what the fall of gravity looks like. And if we see something that doesn't quite fall at the speed of gravity, then we get a bit uncomfortable. We will notice a change. So that they're all on YouTube still. If you're interested in magic, YouTube.com/Kevin Quantum, and then you'll find them all there. I did them every day. I was like the Joe Wicks of magic for a month, 2 months.
YouTube.com/
Kevin Quantum.
Yeah, Kevin Quantum.
Yeah, you'll find it all there.
I've linked that to the comments.
Yeah, and if you're on YouTube and you're looking for a YouTube black hole, then I was part of a documentary a few years about quantum physics. It was called Einstein's Quantum Riddle, and I have a small kind of cameo role illustrating some of the physics in that. It's an hour-long documentary that you'll find on YouTube as well. And some of the magic science lessons were commissioned by the BBC. So if you're in the UK and you have BBC iPlayer, then if you again just look for Kevin Quantum on the BBC iPlayer, you'll find my science magic lessons that were developed for the BBC as a sort of a spin-off from the YouTube channel.
Science man lessons?
Science and magic. Science magic.
Science and science as.
So yeah, if you go to BBC iPlayer and just search for Kevin Quantum, you'll find these episodes.
Great. I didn't think Einstein liked quantum theory.
Well, gosh, I mean, he didn't like aspects of it. He didn't like the randomness of it, as far as I understand. He preferred order and predictability. He didn't like the idea that things could be unpredictable. But I think by the end of his career, he'd come to accept it.
Yes. It is difficult. Things being in two places at once and stuff like that.
But that's why I took the name Quantum. Kevin, like it started off as I saw scientists, great physicists, renowned international Nobel laureates using magical terminology to explain what was happening at this level because they just didn't understand. It was hilarious. Transform, teleport, all this sort of stuff. Spooky action at a distance. They just didn't know what it was.
There is definitely a crossover there, isn't there?
That's what intrigued me, and I felt like if I take the most magical area of science, which is just now, I would argue, the tiniest area of science, that quantum level where things are quantified by little energy packets, then that felt like a safe and fun place to be.
BB is asking us, what are the limits of physics? I think probably the answer to that is the connectivity between me and Edinburgh.
Yeah, the limits of physics. I think we're probably limited by our own comprehension. I remember when doing advanced quantum theory at university, and we're having to work through things in multiple dimensions. I always struggled with the concept of having to jump into infinite dimensional space to solve something. But mathematicians are so I often use the analogy that there was mathematicians who were faced with a problem and we couldn't solve it in the real world, so they invented an imaginary world. And what they did was they go into this imaginary world, they do the maths there, and they jump out again, and the answer is correct. It's like how creative can you get?
And yet we can't conceive of it.
No, we can't.
Even our analogies are crude misfits.
Yeah, absolutely. There's we don't understand why it works. It just does. Imaginary numbers is a weird place to be, but you can use them, and the science works. The results. It's like a black box, isn't it? You kind of do what you have to do in this imaginary world that mathematicians have just conjured up, and it works. Who knew?
Well, there's no limit to the imagination, is there?
No.
That's something that always amuses me when people say this is beyond imagination or beyond belief. Well, just imagine a bit wilder. There's no reason.
Yeah.
There's no limit there.
Well, yeah, I think imagination is the only thing that humanity has going for it in this age of robotics and artificial intelligence. I think I'm not sure how easy it would be to recreate that. So for me as a parent, just now I try and foster imagination and creative thinking in my daughters and my two girls as much as I can, because I think that the workplace will be very different in 20 years' time when they enter it. So yeah, I know we're off topic there. That's my feeling.
I don't know that we are really, because I think that the arts, creativity, entertainment, these are some of the highest achievements of mankind.
I agree. I mean, it's imitate. I mean, what makes us different is I guess our ability to think and observe ourselves and others around us and make sense of it, change our environments. So and that has to what they say, there's two phases to everything that you make. There has to be two phases. The first is you have to imagine it, and then you have to build it. You have to first of all build it in your head before you actually build it in real life. And I'm a big believer in that. I think things have to start here before they actually enter what we call the real world.
And on that note, Kevin, I think that's a good point to bring this to a conclusion.
I was just getting going, John. I was just getting going. No, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We've had an hour, and I always promise my guests that they can take time off afterwards and get into the beer or wine or whatever suits them. So feel free to take the rest of the day off.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go and discuss with my wife whether or not we're going to organize a holiday for next year. That's how I'm going to spend my time.
Yeah, who knows? I wish I had a crystal ball. We all need one of those.
So do psychics, I'm sure, John.
Anyway, Kevin, thank you very much. You've been fantastic.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great. You're welcome.